Welcome to Hardheaded Podcast. It's time to join the conversation.
Hey, welcome to the show, episode 125. Thanks for listening. This podcast sponsored by Trussell Media. With me, as always, is Mr. Matt Amos and Mr. Chet Sears. Today, we are going to talk about whatever is on Matt's mind, so buckle your seatbelts, ladies and gentlemen. And top 3 overrated big-name brands. If you think somebody's overrated, as we're about to talk about, why don't you drop it in the comments? Let us know. But first, or last, rather, Chet's going to end it with a good word. So, Matt, dare I ask, what is on your mind?
I'm glad you asked, Troy. Let me tell you. So there was a disturbed person who recently went and shot up another school. And everybody's all up in arms again.
Oh, you're serious? I was, I thought you were being really silly there for a little bit.
He got serious on us real quick.
Yeah, I just switched because what I was originally going to say was we're going to talk about what's on Matt's mind. And I looked down to make sure what I was going to talk about today because I had a couple things written down. And the way my handwriting looks, it says guns / and then I thought it said dicks, but it says pills. So it was just the way I wrote it was, and then your sign and all that. But
okay.
So anyway,
I'm glad you can read your own handwriting.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Richards
or not.
But anyway, so everybody's all up in arms about banning firearms again and
boycotting.
Not even boycotting. I mean, straight up banning certain types of weapons. And I've reached a point where I would agree that these semi-automatic rifles are weapons of war. And guess what? That's exactly what I want them for. I don't care.
All semi-automatic rifles?
They want to, so it doesn't matter because the AR is nothing more than a semi-automatic rifle. So if you want to ban that, what's stopping you from banning other semi-automatic rifles?
Well, that's what they want to do.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But I think they're, and it kind of goes back and in the course of trying to do some research on, these shooters and, because obviously they're messed up in the head. That's painfully obvious, even though I've had people argue with me online that of the opposite of that effect. I said, so you mean to tell me that they weren't mentally ill when they went and did that? Because I said, well, we got prescription drug use, whether it's, the antidepressants or whatever it is. And a lot of those you can't see because of HIPAA records or whatever, and they're not releasing it. So it's easy to say that, well, that wasn't the case in this instance. But, just for conversation's sake, between 1991 and 2018, SSRI use or antidepressant use went up 3,000%. But suicides and violence has not gone down.
Has it gone up?
I didn't look at that stat, but I would venture to say overall, since 91, probably. But I would have to look that stat up. I'm not 100% sure. And I think that there's so many other variables that nobody's looking at because everybody wants to jump to what would seem to be the easiest solution, which is let's just ban the guns. But we have a Second Amendment that prevents that. And so I've taken Chet's line in saying, you don't like it, change the Constitution, but until the Constitution's changed, shut your mouth.
Yeah.
It's there.
And you have to deal with it through the methods that the Constitution details.
Exactly.
You got to amend the Constitution.
Yes. And nobody has anything to say to that. They they basically shut up at that point, and then they go back on off all their other talking points about banning whatever. And I'm like, you can't do that according to the Constitution.
Yeah.
That's not what it says. And of course, then they start, well, weapons of war have no place on the streets. And I'm like, or in modern society. And I said, that's absolutely where they should belong, is in the hands of the people, because it's there for tyranny. And then they go off on, well, you've got some manufactured idea of this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not even that concerned about that happening in my lifetime. I said, because it goes so slow. They erode your rights just a little bit at a time. So you get mad, but not mad enough to really do anything.
Yeah.
And then they continue to do it over and over and over and over again. But at some point, and it may not be in my lifetime, it might be in my kid's lifetime, it may be in my grandkid's lifetime, it may be in my great grandkid's lifetime. But at some point down the line, it's going to happen. And I am not going to be the one that leaves them unable to defend themselves. And so I think people are a little just short-sighted. They're not thinking long-term. They're only thinking about themselves and their current time, which is most people nowadays anyway. All they care about is really themselves and how they look and feel. And they want their opinions expressed, but they don't care about down the road because they just don't have the sight or the looking into the future to understand how things can actually go from good to bad real quick. I mean, you look at any of the other countries that have done that, and it's gone from good to bad real quick. Mm-hmm. So we look at so obviously the use of antidepressants has gone up. The United States alone consumes over 90% of the world's opium, whether that's medication form, whatever. We consume 90% of it, and we consume 99% of the world's hydrocodone, Percocet, basically.
Yeah.
99% of it. What are we covering up? Nobody's hurting that much. There's people in other countries who get over stuff without it. But I can tell you from personal experience, and it may not be hydrocodone, even though I was on that. My drug of choice is Dilaudid. If anybody's got, but
it's fantastic.
It is awesome, right?
I'm telling you.
So it makes you
used by a medical professional in those environments. I can tell you.
Oh, I mean, when and then the pill form, that's awesome. After surgery or something like that. But when you go in, you get the IV form in the hospital from a kidney stone. Oh my God, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
Man,
but
sounds like I'm sitting with a couple of addicts over
you,
here.
dude.
But I quit, right? I got off of all that, and because I don't need it anymore. But it makes you feel fantastic. So what are people covering up? Because it's not for pain.
Yeah.
They're like, I want to feel good. So whether that's recreational drug use, whether that's, prescription drug abuse, whatever it is.
Well, I think a lot of people, though, they have similar things that happen to them, and they get stuck on these. And like you were able to get off of them. But I think a lot of people, they just get stuck and they can't get off of them. I mean, you got...
Which goes to, why did you have that specific drug in the first place? And that goes back to the 99% of the people in the world.
Well, then why
is it schedulable in the U.S.?
Yeah.
You can't even buy Advil in Europe.
Yeah.
So,
well,
like, because some
big pharma
tears your stomach up or
making
something.
Making a ton of money on killing us all, getting us addicted to pills,
Yeah, but it's not just that. So I think it's an overwhelming sign of just a gross amount of depression going around, because you take that stuff and you feel good, and then you come off of that stuff and you feel bad again. And I could go through the whole, I think, and I've talked about it before, that circle, that loop that starts in your brain, and that your brain tells your body you need it. You don't, but your brain is the most powerful tool that you've got, and it tells your body, hey, you're in pain, you need this. You feel bad, you need this, and so you continue to take it. But I've talked about that before, and that's a different topic. But you look at it too. So, and everybody, and I just think that there needs to be more things that are looked at. So in 1994 is when the assault weapons ban lapsed and was not renewed, and everybody all of a sudden says, oh, well, crime and school shootings have gone up since 1994 when that ban was put in, when that ban was no longer in place. But at the same time, the internet was gaining popularity. So people just started to really have the internet at home to where they could, go to chat rooms and talk back and forth. And people started spending more time inside because computers and video games. And so I'm not attributing necessarily violent video games to a rise in violence, but
Because you play them.
Or I play them, but I've already gotten my violence out. I joined the Marine Corps, and if you've got a penchant for that, join the military. You'll get it all out. But it's funny to me because how much more time are people spending inside? It's been shown, studies have shown in Seattle, where it's gloomy, for longer than it is in most parts of the country. There's more depression up there. Why? Because there's not enough sun. So what if people are staying inside a heck of a lot more, and that's why they're depressed, because they're not getting out as much as our parents did or we did, whatever. So I just think that there's more factors to look at other than just the firearm, because the firearm, again, cannot do anything without the person behind it. So what is causing the person behind that firearm to do what they're doing? It doesn't make any sense to me. Well, this person wouldn't have done that if they didn't have access to it. They still felt that way. And I actually had somebody, back in my day, kids didn't, go shoot up schools. They threw milk cartons and bananas at each other in the lunchroom, whatever. And I'm like, I was very polite
Milk cartons
in the discussion.
Bananas.
I just said, wow. And I left it at that, because even when I went to school, I had a gun in my car. And it's been like that before I was even in school, where you could have your shotgun, have a rifle in the window of your pickup. You got the gun rack in the back of your truck, and you just had your guns there. Nobody messed with them. Nobody stole them.
Yeah.
Nobody was going into the school and shooting people up with them. So what's changed since then?
A lot. This is a theory. I haven't run it to ground, but I think one of the major shifts that also has happened over the time frame where gun violence has increased outside of the inner city. So this is a suburban gun issue that I'm speaking of right now. At the same time, where the anti-bullying campaigns have increased in schools. So the schools or society, if you want to put it this way, has taken the role of, we're going to eliminate the bullies. You don't do anything. If you're getting bullied, report it. Don't deal with it yourself.
Don't pop them in the nose.
And in fact, if you do, you're going to be the one that gets in trouble, not the bully, right? If you deal with this yourself, you're the one that's in trouble. And I think, so if there's no out on being bullied, I was taught as a kid, and I was bullied as a kid, and my dad got to a point where he's like, look, son, you either stand up for yourself or live like that. Like, it's up to you. It's not the bully here. You either teach that guy to stop treating you that way through physical force, to stand up for yourself. You may not win, but stand up for yourself, or shut up. Quit whining about it, And that mentality, the school said that's not okay. So what would have been a brief altercation, and I saw enough fights in middle school and high school where two guys got tied up, and the next day they're friends, right? I mean, did you guys you notice that?
Yeah,
it's like that is a way to work things out. And if all you got was a black eye, and all you got was a little embarrassed because you didn't win, you actually earn the respect of the person that you stood up to. And if that was a bully, then the bully also know, maybe maybe I'll win, but maybe I get a black eye too, and you know what? I'm going to quit talking to this person this way because they don't like it. They're not going to allow it anymore. That role in our society has been removed, and you can't stand up for yourself anymore. You have to go to the authorities, the school, and have the school deal with it. How does the school deal with it? It's not enforced in a way that teaches the bully that there are consequences for your actions. And typically the good consequence for the actions back then is I'm going to get popped in the nose. Like I'm going to pick on this kid until a certain point where it's just over. Like I'm going to get popped in the nose. So the people that are being bullied don't have an out. Nothing. There's no way for them there's no path for them to deal. So it just builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. And then what do? They get depressed. Where do they go? They go to a psychiatrist, psychologist. What do? They give them pills. And then does that stop the bullying? It does not stop the bullying. And then you get to a point where you crack, as opposed to a punch in the face. You have now gone through a decade of this as opposed to a year, and you've never stood up for yourself, and you're on all these meds, and you crack. And what do? Well, you find a gun at your parents' house or your cousin's house or whatever, and you take it and you go and you shoot people. I think it starts, this whole path has started with we're going to allow society through the authorities in our school resolve all the issues and take the ability of our children to learn how to act in a society. And in a society, a well-functioning society, if you step out of line, there should be consequences, and those consequences should come from your community, not from some global authority
right
at a high level, which when you're in middle school, that's the principle. Like, you should be able to pop somebody in the nose.
Yeah. Well, and
pay the consequences for it. But
so kind of off subject, but back when I moved in to where I moved, I was talking to one of the neighbors that had been there for a long, long time. And he said, back in the day, he goes, it's really calm out here. Nothing much really happens. He goes, there was one point in time where there was somebody going around and was stealing stuff, robbing people. And they rounded him up and they whooped his ass. And he never...
he stopped.
And he still lives there.
It's not okay for me to steal.
It did not happen again.
Yeah. And the guy's not in prison.
Yeah. So I understand that, and then and I would agree with you, as that's partially part of the problem, but I think there's more to it,
no doubt,
and just online, because kids are on their phones or they're on a computer and, they're even on a video game. Some of the stuff that I hear some of these people say to other people when I'm playing, like, holy cow, really? And to the point, I had one person, it was kind of funny. I was winning and doing a really good job,
which is rare,
not rare. And they reported me for offensive chat. I didn't even have my mic on, and my name was offensive. Jamos, Jamos 0311 was an offensive name. And so they reported me on that. Right.
Yeah.
So, and it's just, it's stupid, right? But some of the stuff that these people are saying to each other, because there's no consequence for what they're saying.
Because they're not going to get popped in the nose.
100%, because I guarantee if that fool was standing in front of my face, he ain't doing that. Yeah. Guaranteed.
He's a chicken. Caw-caw.
Caw-caw, caw-caw.
It's the same crap with people hiding behind their keyboard on social media.
Yeah, but you can do that, and I agree. And you go out in society and you do that, and nothing happens. Like,
because you're taught not to. No, don't get in a fight. Don't do anything. Don't punch him.
Yeah,
because then, oh man, now you're a threat.
I'm just saying, in that social experiment, maybe it's not working out.
I would say that
maybe the way
either.
the schools today deal with. Maybe you should let the kids work it out.
Yeah,
I was a freshman in a civics class, and I don't even remember this guy's name, but there was a senior in there, like a third time he was taking it, and I had a growth spurt later in life. I was a 5 foot whatever pipsqueak little freshman, and this dude was sitting behind me, and every day he would just reach back there and grab the hairs in the back of my neck, pull on them, do whatever, just all day, all class long, just like And I'd be like, dude, you need to stop. And I would have got whooped. If we would have gotten a fight, I would have, this guy had 50, 60 pounds on me, and he was 4 years older than me. But one day, and we were into the semester or whatever, pretty good while into the 9-week period. I just had it. So I stood up, one of those where you stand up and throw the desk at the same time, kind of just stood up and spun around and shoved the desk out of the way. Where I was ready to boat up, like, we're doing this now. Like, I'm not going to take this anymore. And our teacher was Mr. Jackson, and he got over there, and then this dude, he was about to go down. I was about to drop like a sack of potatoes. Like, he would have knocked my lights out. And teacher got there and kind of got in between us, and he told the dude, he's like, you need to learn a lesson. And he's like, what? He said, you've been picking on this kid all class, the whole 9-week period. You've been picking on him, and you've been pushing him to a limit. And I just want to know right now, have you ever met his dad? And he's like, well, huh? He's like, his dad's like 6'2". So, and he's young. He's going to be more than 6 foot tall. You're 18 and you peaked at 5'8" or whatever. One day, and I don't know when that day is, you're going to be hanging out at the pool hall, and this big old dude's going to darken the door when he walks in there, and it's going to be him. You're not going to recognize him, and he is going to come over there and whoop you, and you don't know why it happened. You're not going to know why. You're just going to be lumped over in the corner wondering, what did I do with my life for somebody to walk through the door and do that to me? And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm saying that you can win today. You're going to lose this match tomorrow. Like, you don't understand it. Years later, I'm back home from college. I'm the 6'4", 6'5" guy. I walk into the pool hall with some guys that I went to high school with, and that dude recognized me and immediately got in his truck and left. Like, he was like, I'm out of here. Like, it all came back at that moment. He's like, you know what? There are consequences for my actions. They may not come today.
That teacher knew what was going to happen. I'm getting out of here.
Yeah. He's like, and there was the only place in town to hang out was that pool hall. But he's like, I don't want to live with this. I heard about this. I heard what happens in this scenario, and I don't want to. And that dude is a lot bigger than me now, But there were consequences, and it wasn't like he's going to call the cops or he's going to, like, one day he may not be able to do it today, but one day you're going to get whooped because of your behavior today. I don't know a kid that goes to school today that feels like, if I keep doing this, somebody's going to whoop me. I don't. I just don't think that's the violence, and the small violence, not gun violence, the black eye, I get a bloody nose, a fat lip. There's no opportunity for that in this day. And I don't know. Maybe I'm way off here, but I'm thinking, yeah, maybe that needs to come back at the kid level.
I'm with you.
I don't think adults need to be running out there punching each other.
I teach my kids that. I mean, my boys pick on each other all the time, and I tell, especially one of them, the middle child, I told him the other day, if you keep running your mouth like you're running your mouth to this neighbor,
yeah.
And y'all pick on each other all the time. I get it. But if you keep running your mouth like that, somebody's going to rear back and knock your butt out.
Yeah.
And I keep having to tell him.
And hopefully for my parents' sake, hopefully somebody will punch him in the face.
Yeah, somebody
when he's 8 years old, 10 years old.
Well, his little brother has already done it a couple of times. And I've said, I told you so.
What you get. Yeah. You behave this way, there's consequences.
Exactly. So
we need more of that.
We do. But anyway, that's what's been on my mind.
They don't need to take it too far, by the way.
It's not the guns. There's something going on mentally with people.
I'm with you. And if you want to change the Second Amendment, go change the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
Not through the court system. Do it through the Constitution. Eliminate it.
Yep.
And the one other thing, and before we move, I know we're spending a lot of time on this. The very interesting thing with this debate that really makes me so angry is that both sides want the same thing. We should. We don't want kids to die. But one side of this debate is acting as if the other side wants kids to die.
Right.
And that's not the case. So I think we try to at least need to agree that we both would rather our kids not die. So don't come at me because I promote the Second Amendment as if I promote children dying. And I'll give you my word, that's not what you want either. I understand that, Mr. Gun Control person. We need to agree on some solutions though. And if you think it's the Second Amendment is bad, then go change the Second Amendment. Don't try to restrict it. Double back on the 1994 assault weapons ban. Started in 94, ended in 2004.
Yep.
Also, the first history of school shooting for your boy throwing milk cartons or whatever happened in the earliest reported was July 26, 1764 at the Pontiac's Rebellion School Massacre, where the headmaster and other 9 or 10 other children were.
Speaking of shootings, did you know that some dude posted up on this Garvey Center tower here in Wichita
back
with
in the 70s?
Browning Deere rifle in the 70s and started picking off people walking through the streets?
I think I've heard that.
Yeah.
Man, it's dangerous down here.
Mm-hmm. That's why I don't ever come here.
Okay.
Moving on. We are going to take a quick break and come back with our top 3. Are you driving traffic to your website? Do you have an engaging homepage? Better yet, does your homepage have a video? We recently created a video for a client about his business and the services they provide. Since he placed the video on the homepage of their website, he has had a number of clients specifically say they decided to use his services because of that video. At Trussell Media, we help businesses create engaging videos to host on their websites, email to clients, and use in their social media marketing. Contact us if you're interested in creating a video for your homepage today. TrussellMedia.com. Fill out the form at TrussellMedia.com/contact. Let us help you tell your story through video. All right, we're back with our top 3 overrated big name brands. This ought to be interesting. I like it when we do these overrated ones. It's pretty fun. All right, Chet, what do you got? Why don't you go first?
Yeti.
Good one.
Overrated.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying that they don't keep drinks cold. I'm not all that stuff. It does what it says it's going to do, but it ain't all that.
It's extremely overpriced.
And therefore overrated.
And overrated.
Like, you're not getting...
Yeah. Well, the Ozark Trail, man, they have a great little Yeti type mug you can drink out of.
So
mugs and coolers and...
Strangely enough, you know how you know why Yeti is what it is right now, don't you?
Because they marketed themselves as it's stronger than a bear. The bear can't get into it.
They started out, and
You have a Yeti tattoo?
I don't. No.
Okay.
On his right butt cheek.
But Yeti is very good about donating and sponsoring stuff for Wounded Warrior Outdoors.
Okay.
So I've got a very close relationship with them.
I'm in trouble.
But
I'm in big trouble now.
So they started out, and
they're now
were
sponsoring the Hardheaded podcast.
and they were
Until now.
an inexpensive. They were an inexpensive cooler.
And they overpriced themselves, and people were like, oh, there must be value here.
So they weren't selling.
Yeah.
And so some marketing genius got in there and said, check the price up. And then everybody started buying it.
Yeah. Except me.
And me.
I
like old Coleman.
love their tumblers and their mugs.
I have 2 Yeti coffee cups and 1 Yeti cooler, all gifts, all very useful. But if I'm going to go buy something, I'm not spending that money on a Yeti. There are some other equivalent brands that are not as name brand recognition that are cheaper that do exactly what I need them to do. And I've never, not one time in my life, had a bear attack my cooler. Not once. You know, that's okay.
I've seen it. So,
Yeah.
but you're not anywhere where that would be common.
No. The bear would have to be hopped up on cocaine if it wants to come after my stuff.
Cocaine bear.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2, Starbucks. Not that good at coffee. I've never said, hey, I really want a good cup of coffee right now. Let's go to Starbucks. Just hadn't happened. So all in the branding and not much in the product, in my opinion.
That's good. I like these so far.
Number 1, General Motors. Overrated.
How did I know that one was coming?
So overrated. This is not just for our listeners. This is not just a Chet drives Ford, therefore GM is bad meme type scenario. I supplied General Motors for 8 years of my career. I got to see some of the stuff that probably does happen at some of these other auto manufacturers. But if you want to go back, a few years, the daytime running lights on their trucks and Suburbans, they always had the right one that was out. That was a mistake that they made in their design, and they said, we're sticking with it. We're not going to change it because it's going to cost us money. It's just a daytime running light. We will let that poor quality be a billboard on the front of our grills on all these vehicles for over a decade. They did not fix it. Number two thing that ought to show you how they're overrated, the tailgate latch, the plastic tailgate latch on their CK pickups, they're all busted out. If you look at there for a whole decade, you can go look on your truck. You're going to pull up to a stoplight. If you're listening to this right now, there's an old Chevy truck in front of you by like a 2000 era, 2010. That tailgate handle is missing in the back. There's just a hole there because that piece of junk plastic that they use and chose not to fix for years is just a billboard on the back of their vehicle that says, we don't care too much about quality. There's just two instances of what's publicly visible on stuff that is out there. You don't even need an inside man to tell you that that's how they cared about their quality and that's how they cared about their vehicles. And I think they're overrated if anybody says you need to be driving a Chevy over anything else. There you go.
Oh, that's a good opinion.
That's my three. I have an honorable mention too. We'll get to that later.
I got a few as well. All right, I'll go next. Number 3, Nike. Nike. We bought a pair of Air Jordan Nikes it was a gift to my son, 10-year-old. He played in the YMCA, a basketball league. He played 8 games. And before the 8 games were even complete, his shoelaces started breaking. And the little thing at the top that holds the last lace popped off, just popped in half. I was very unimpressed with the way they make their shoes.
Yeah.
They need to work on that.
No, I don't think they are. They got good recognition. They're going to stay overrated.
They are. Number 2 is not going to come as a surprise to most of our listeners, but Chik-fil-A. It's overrated.
Yeah, I have to disagree with you there.
You are totally wrong.
Completely overrated.
Look, if I'm going to spend $12 on a value meal, the best place to do that is at Chik-fil-A.
No, there's not. There's plenty other places that you could go to spend $12.
Number one.
Moving on.
Pfizer. Everything that they do is overrated.
Yeah. No doubt. They're horrible.
Especially in the past 3 years.
They need to quit advertising.
Yeah.
Just get out.
If you watch broadcast TV, that's all you're going to see.
Because they have so much money to spend because we gave them all our tax dollars.
Yep.
We paid for it.
So, there you go. Top 3 overrated.
What you got, Matt?
Number 3, Kimber.
Pistol.
Yep.
Or firearm.
I've never owned the rifle, but the pistols are overrated.
Yeah. They have very highly touted.
They look cool.
Yeah.
They're not really built to last. When you talk to them, the spring on their 1911 is basically only there for 5,000 rounds. That's all it's meant for.
Yeah.
Which means if I'm doing
It's a decorative pistol.
a high level of shooting, I'm going to have to replace that every year.
Yeah.
Which I've never had to replace a spring.
Which
in a
means
SIG.
that you would have to have a stockpile of springs if, the fan moment comes and you're left with that. You better have some springs.
That's not what you want to bring to the fan moment.
Yeah.
Well, what if you're at like 4,998? You got an intruder. That's all you got. Man, you got 2 shots and you're done.
Yeah.
You better hit.
Well, I mean, it's still going to maybe cycle the round. but you're going to have a stoppage of some sort that you're going to have to clear out in that moment. You don't want that. But
is that why 1911 shooters practice so much on clearing stoppages, because it happens so often?
Maybe. But I just know that their springs are just very, very weak. They just don't last. Number 2, John Deere.
Ooh.
And I've owned John Deere mowers. I've never owned a tractor, and I can't speak for like their agricultural, the big equipment type stuff, because I think those are probably some of the best in the business at what they do. But their smaller stuff for the consumer,
No good.
overrated, way overrated for what you get. So I bought one, I don't know, 60-inch mower, something like that. And the deck on it was just weak. Not where I'm mowing, occasionally there's a rock or there's something hidden that you don't see and you mow over it. And I think I'd owned this $4,000 mower for a couple of months and bent a spindle by running over a rock. I mean,
Ugh.
and
So you went into that with expectation like this is the most durable thing on the market.
it's going to hold up,
Yeah.
and now granted it runs, nothing runs like a Deere. Yeah. I mean, it runs,
Doesn't mow.
but it won't mow
Yeah.
anymore. And, of course I went and I upgraded and I spent a little bit more money, got a bad boy mower, and that thing is built like you would not believe. That's what you would expect a John Deere to be built like.
Yeah.
Because even their commercial grade mowers are not as commercial grade as that bad boy mower,
The
Yeah.
seats,
but you're spending more money
the seats on the bad boy are made right here in Hutchinson, Kansas.
and they're comfortable. Mine's got suspension on it. I mean, you dial it up to your weight
Yeah.
and it just, it floats. It's nice. And number 1 overrated, big name brand, Starbucks. Terrible coffee. Not even good. And you might have convinced yourself that it's good, but it's not good.
Well, most people drink a drink from there, and they're drinking sugar with a little bit of
Yeah, it's all the
coffee or
fancy. It's
espresso
not the quality of the coffee. It's what they're putting. They're so enamored with what
Makes
they're
it
putting
tolerable.
into it.
Yeah.
So because I'm telling you right now, Il Primo on Central and Woodlawn
is
has
schniz.
some of the best coffee I've ever had.
I like their caramel macchiato a lot better than Starbucks.
Phenomenal coffee.
They have a fantastic bacon breakfast burrito as
I
well.
do the sausage breakfast burrito.
Sausage burrito. I like the sausage.
I like the
better.
bacon. I'm a bacon fan. But
The
But it's
burrito's best breakfast burrito in town.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
Bar none. Yeah. Anyway, that's my 3.
good stuff. All right. Tell us your top 3. Leave a comment or call in to the hotline 1-888 Matt Amos.
Yeah. I would like to talk to you about prescription drugs.
Anyway, Chet, you got our good word there?
I do. And the word, not necessarily good. Sanhedrin.
Oh, bad.
Terrible.
What do you guys think of when you hear of the Sanhedrin?
Holier than thou.
Holier than thou.
Hypocrites.
Hypocrites. What else?
They did not believe in. Was it? Yeah, they didn't believe in the resurrection, right?
Well,
They didn't believe that.
they try to cover up the resurrection. They're also the group. Whenever you hear the story of Jesus' crucifixion, they're the chief priests that petitioned Pilate to crucify Jesus.
Right.
So if you go back, let's step back a little bit further. The Sanhedrin was set up of, it depended on the size of where they were, what was going on, 23 or 70 leaders, 70 priests that would lead the group of Israelites, and sometimes that was at a municipality level, and sometimes it was for the whole nation of Israel. And at Jesus' time, there was a group of 70, and it was for the whole nation of Israel. And they weren't all bad. Nicodemus was one of the members of the Sanhedrin. Joseph, the The individual that let Jesus borrow his tomb was also
Joseph
part of the
Arimathea.
Yes, he was in the Sanhedrin. So this isn't all in, but the Sanhedrin was also the group of people that had Jesus arrested. They all, if you go into the account of Matthew, the people were given a choice. Pilate and he's like, hey, dude didn't do anything wrong, can't crucify him. Sanhedrin said, well, we got another guy that's been proven guilty. Can you at least, both of them, we want both of them to be crucified, but can you give one of them back? And the other one, if the people vote. Well, the Sanhedrin was the one that got the crowd to start saying, give us Barabbas, bring him back, right? We want Barabbas to crucify Jesus. Well, it goes in Matthew, it details how it was the Sanhedrin, the chief priest, that drummed up the crowd to say that. So lot of bad things, and they were also, we talked about earlier in one of your what you were talking about a couple episodes ago, Troy, how there was an effort to say that Jesus was his body was stolen. That was started by the Sanhedrin.
Yeah,
like we're doing everything that we can to discount and discredit. So if you think about it, what that really was a power struggle, because Jesus was the Messiah, and the assumption of the day was that whoever the Messiah was coming in with a new kingdom. We look at that and we know that's an eternal kingdom. The interpretation of the people of the time was that it was a new physical kingdom on earth,
right?
That they would be out from whatever oppression that they were under. And in Jesus' day, that was the Roman oppression. And when Jesus actually started performing miracles, it started taking power away from the Sanhedrin, and that they saw that if this was the Messiah, that it wasn't going to replace Roman rule. It was a different kingdom that he was setting up, and Jesus was very open about that. And so the people that were in power started trying to find a way to manipulate the Jewish people in power. The Sanhedrin couldn't necessarily go and punish Jesus because of the occupation of Rome. Rome had all the say. So they manipulated Rome and the people in a way to get Jesus crucified, to take him out, because he's going to remove their power. So history tends to repeat itself on the lines of humans, when they get into power, that they're going to do everything that they can to protect it. So if you are any just average citizen, average Joe out there, be careful of people in power. Not all of them are bad. We see instances where out of 70, at least 2 were still trying to pursue the right thing. You notice that Nicodemus met with Jesus in private because he didn't want people to know that he was trying to find out more, because he already knew that there was an undercurrent that didn't like Jesus, and they wanted to do what they could to get him out of there. But then at the same time, Joseph of Arimathea was like, you can borrow my grave. Like, I'll probably still get to use it because you are going to be not here for very long. So there's still some good folks there, but I think, as we're coming out of the Easter season by a few weeks now, but that was one of the things that was very impressed on me, going through, just thinking about the timeline, the events, the people that were involved. There was a very large group of men that were responsible for being the religious leaders of the people. And when somebody came in, and actually Jesus, the Messiah, came in, these men that were responsible for spiritually leading the nation of Israel just got very protective of the power that they had, and not focused on the people that they were leading. And so that would be a warning in a good way. Pay attention to those in power and understand that a lot of times they want to protect what they have more than they want to fulfill the role that they were given.
It's true. Matter of fact, there's a good documentary on that. It's called While the Rest of Us Die.
Oh.
If we're talking about political power and people wanting to stay in power and maintaining that power, it's a very good documentary.
Yep.
that shows that they do not care about you.
Well, it happens all the time. I mean,
And it's been proven since way back.
yep. Thanks for listening to the Hardheaded Podcast. Don't forget to share this podcast with others to help us get the word out.
Also, if you haven't yet, please rate and review the show. This helps our podcast show up in other people's suggested shows that may or may not have listened to us before.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.